Up right now from the Pepsi of Central Virginia studios, it's Live and Local on 92.3 WXRK-LP, Charlottesville.
Good evening. I'm Eric Law. I'm your host for Live and Local. Hope you're having a good Sunday. I am in the studio here with Unheard Sirens Incorporated. We got Abrill and Juliet in the studio. Thank you guys so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So coming up this week on Friday, you guys are releasing your second studio album, Regeneration.
That's right.
Pretty exciting stuff.
It is very exciting. It's been an incredible journey to get to this point. I mean, 2020 has been a crazy year, but that's one of those things like I can't say it was completely bad because we made this body of work, which I'm really proud of.
Yeah, with everything else shut down, we got to focus a lot on creativity and making sure this album could come together.
That's really cool. You guys had an album come out earlier, back in 2017?
That's right. That was our first full length. Actually, before that, this project actually started. It was just me, and I released an EP. And then eventually, when Juliet and I kind of reconnected, as it were, we first became, partners in terms of love, in terms of marriage, and then became partners in terms of the music as well. So.
Well, we got engaged and then we merged our musical interests.
Yep, exactly.
It was very metaphoric. Our first gig was our wedding.
Oh, nice.
We had a wedding gig instead of a wedding.
Talk about kind of your earliest memory making music. Like,
Well, it's the picture on the wall over there. It's one of my earliest memories making music with my grandmother, who played and sang for the family whenever we got together, and she did music her whole life and would perform and do plays and put on shows, and she had pub nights. She was English, so she'd have everybody come down to the pub, and she had handmade songbooks that she would pass out, and you could call out, "Hey, play Danny Boy, Jan," because her name was Janet, and everybody would sing along, and my grandma would just play. She knew everything from memory. She didn't need music. She could kind of remember anything. She was a savant with music, and just as a little kid, she would always pick me up and let me just kind of play. And so when I was 3, I started asking for a piano. And when I was 5, my parents finally gave in because I wouldn't tell them anything else I wanted. They were like, "You're too little for a piano. What else do you want?" It's like, just a piano. They're like, "You don't want a doll? You want a bike? Just want a piano." So we didn't tell them anything else I wanted for like 2 full years until they finally came home on my birthday when I was 5. And there was my piano with a dozen yellow roses on it, and I wrote my first song sitting at it. And it was called Angels and Devils, and the little high voices were the angels and the low voices were the devils, and I sang and made up stuff and sat at the piano the whole rest of the day. My very first band was in college. I played with a band called Rebar. They were a group of 4 guys from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I went to a college in the same city called Guilford College. And I just met them through the community. One of the guys was co-owner of a record shop I used to go to all the time, back when there were record stores. And, top 5 reasons to be in a band. And so we rehearsed at the place which was called Crunchy Music. And we got to rehearse in the record store and listen to music, and down on Tate Street in North Carolina. About the same year, started playing with a Guilford band once people kind of like, "Oh, you can play in a band?" At that time, I was just playing cello and doing backup harmony vocals. I was really shy about singing. And I was studying music as an undergrad. It was one of my double major in piano and biology. I moved to Charlottesville right after I finished my master's because, in large part, it had such a thriving music community, and I really wanted to create my own music. I started posting flyers. I created a really cool flyer when I moved to town, with all my influences and band people I was looking for, and I just started going to potlucks and things and getting leads. That's how I got into Claire Quilty. It was kind of lucky. I already knew the founder and guitar player, and then I was in a singing class with the singer, and they were like, "This could work." We did 1 rehearsal, and they were like, "Okay, well, we've got 2 nights, and then we're gonna have this big show in DC. Can you do the whole set?" And I was like, 18 songs? Yes, I can totally do that. So I just sort of crammed it. Claire Quilty played out, and we gigged a lot, and we're really promoting that album between 2003 and 2006. And then 2 of the band members, there were 3 women and 2 men. I was one of the 3 women. The other 2 women both shifted into mom mode and had their first kids. And so after a long run as a band, they just said, it's time to put priorities elsewhere, and maybe we'll do reunion shows. But the big work of keeping a band going, it was a lot with 5 people. And I thought, after working with a stellar band. Chris Rutolo and Jen Rupert and I, we could all sing together. We had actually started a side band called The Dirty Dishes with a fourth woman, Leah Calvani, on the drums. I got a lot more confident about stage performance and being with the crowd. At that point, I just thought, I think it's time for me to start my own thing. I started talking with Wally Worsley, who worked at one of the local music shops in town, and we quickly recruited another friend, Michael Wingate. They were both guitar players. Michael and Wally and I went to Wild Wings one night and just started talking about ideas for the name of the band, and we settled on Phoenix Noir. It kind of came to me after that conversation, and I was texting them both, what do you think about Phoenix Noir? And it was because I've gone through a lot of changes in my life, and Regeneration has already been a big theme in my life, even before the present album that is called Regeneration. And the Phoenix kind of goes through these trial by fire moments, and kind of everything burns away. And what's left could look like the end, just the ashes and the dust settling. But instead, something new gets born. And I kind of felt like I'd lived some cycles like that in my own life.
I've always been creative from a very young age, but it was mostly in other art forms like drawing and creating. Any interest I ever had as a kid, I was always kind of creative in it, like drawing my own versions of something or creating my own characters or something like that.
Before any of this music stuff happened, I was going to be a filmmaker. That was the dream. The dream was I was going to be the next George Lucas.
Sure, yeah.
But it's music is so much less of a pain in the ass than trying to make a movie, trying to get all the resources and all the people together just to have nobody end up seeing it. Making a film is like going to war because you're fighting against everything.
Music for me didn't come until a lot later. Yeah, I didn't get really into kind of music and music creation, especially until my 20s. I wanted to explore being creative in music, but I was very intimidated by what I was hearing on the radio. I was like, I can't compete with that kind of stuff. But then I discovered punk rock, and that kind of leveled the playing field at that point. That was kind of like, oh, well, okay, I can do that. And it kind of gave that voice to that rebellious kind of bucking the system kind of energy that I was looking for at the time. My good friend David Delhunt, he was just messing around with certain simple guitar riffs, and I just really liked what he was doing, and we started playing with the idea of being a punk band, and we formed our first punk band, Freak Flag, at that point. At first it was just two of us, and then later, I think I was just searching around Craigslist at first, and I found this post from this kid who's like, need a band now, damn it, and he listed a bunch of punk rock and goth influences, and that was Bryce Little, Damien Maddock. And so he seemed like an instant fit for the band. We sort of found a common energy and a rebellious spirit that we were all looking for.
Back into the corner and left with no choice. They ripped our vocal cords out, so now this can is our voice.
Go myself, boys! Compromise! Go myself, boys! Patronize! Hey!
I first met Abrill showing up to all the shows that Bryce, performing as Dammy, but to me he was one of my best friends, so just thought him as Brycey Bryce. So I would just go to all their shows, and it was punk and loud and aggressive and noisy, and it was one of those things where they kind of look at each other at the end, they're like, dude, we should probably learn how to play our instruments, kind of a Bill and Ted moment. And it was like, yeah, maybe they should. But there was a lot of gusto, there was a lot of emotion.
Something that rises above all the mundane stuff you hear on a daily basis, coming out of not only Charlottesville, but in general.
Something that people hear and they go, what the hell was that? Even if whether or not they like it or hate it, they'll be like, what was that?
Something that polarizes people, make them think, maybe inspire them to pick up an instrument themselves. Because we all started as non-musicians.
Juliet and I actually initially met through our connection to Bryce. My first memory meeting her was the gig at Baja Bean, was the open mic duo Freak Flag acoustic gig of me and Bryce. She always seemed like a really cool person, just really nice, and we were kind of connected and kind of, I guess I would call us friends at that point. By about 2010, Bryce and I were living together, me and another friend of ours. We were all living together in the same apartment. That whole year, we didn't do anything musically. That entire year of 2010 was just probably the loneliest I've ever felt Me and Bryce weren't making music. I didn't feel like I fit in, like even with like the freaky people. Like we would go out to the local goth night in Charlottesville at the time called Umlaut. We would go there and, you know, I felt like I was amongst the freaky people, like I'm supposed to fit in with this scene, and I still didn't feel like I fit in. I also built a lot of walls around myself. I definitely felt like, well, there isn't really anywhere I can go. There's definitely, that was the kind of the first moment of something needs to change. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what to do. And I think everyone around me could tell I was bored, I was frustrated, I was depressed basically that entire year. And that was kind of the first kind of regeneration moment after that.
Bryce actually passed away April 2011, so kind of the end of that era.
After Bryce passed, I knew Freak Flag couldn't continue at that point. We'd had some demos, and I put those demos together into our final album called Freak Flag is Dead, because I knew the band couldn't continue at that point. He had become such an integral piece of what the identity of that band was that it didn't feel right to continue after that. I had an idea to kind of create a new project, create a new musical avenue, and at that point it was just me kind of tinkering around. I didn't know what music I wanted to make at the time. I never set any sort of limit on it. It was just really what kind of music speaks to me. I experimented with creating different projects in GarageBand, kind of tooling around with different musical samples and musical loops and things like that, and just putting tracks together. And that kind of became that first EP, the Uncle Cyrus EP. Would you like what makes me free? Beautiful disease. What US was in my brain, which was that those letters could stand for anything. It could stand for Utopia Syndrome, which is the title of one of the tracks on that EP. And I came up with several different meanings of what US could stand for. So that anytime people would ask me, well, what does US stand for? I could tell them a different answer. Juliet and I would then see each other off and on throughout the years and kind of check in on each other and see how we were doing.
When I would run into Abrill, we would just kind of catch up and miss our friend together.
Through the wonderful world of the internet and social media, we kind of reconnected.
I did a dating profile for 1 month and found him on there and sent him a message and was like, so hey, we're both on here. And we ended up getting together and going on a date.
And that date ended up lasting 3 hours when I thought it was going to last 1. And we just had an instant connection over music, over everything. It's hard to explain when things just kind of click with somebody else. It's just kind of like it was meant. I remember after our second date, which was just the day after the first one, I went home that afternoon and I just cried. And I didn't know why. There was just this connection. And I believe the next time we met, I told her I loved her.
And once we started seeing each other, we got involved and it got serious pretty fast. And in the process of getting engaged to be married, at some point he jokingly said to me, hey, my solo project's called US at that time, and it kind of evolved what the U and the S might stand for. And he said, you could join me in US. Solo project could become a duo project. And I was like, sure. And then later I learned that was maybe not even a serious statement, just kind of totally joking. And then I said, sure. And it was like, oh, well, now I guess that means we have to make music together.
I maybe just half jokingly put out the suggestion, what if you joined US? And I say half jokingly only because I thought at the time that she was busy with her own band. She was busy with her, her job and her own projects, and that she wouldn't agree to do it because she had just had so much. And then I think it was the next time that we were together, she was like, yeah, okay, I'll join the band. And I was like, all right, we're a band. US is now us.
We had decided that our wedding would be just a rock show, and we'd get married at a set break. And it was a rock show with Phoenix Noir, my band, his other main band, which is Butterfly Vendetta. And then we decided to write a set of music that we would do instead of writing vows or whatever. We would write a set. And our friend Brian Kasich created a ceremony for us and married us, and then right after he married us, we played our first set of music. So the engagement period ended up being a period of trying to figure out how we could also write and create together.